The chocolate, the screen, the next thrill, these aren't rewards. They are diversions, meticulously crafted to hide a more painful truth. When was the last time you felt complete, utterly at rest within yourself, without the immediate urge for something more? We exist in an era of endless stimulation, yet a deep hunger persists untouched. Carl Jung observed that our most common comforts are often obstacles to our own wholeness. Today you'll understand why. Picture a typical morning. Your hand reaches for the phone before your mind is fully awake. No urgent message awaits, no real curiosity drives you. It's a reflex, stronger than thirst. A fleeting notification brings a micro smile, instantly forgotten. Scroll, scroll, scroll. The hour dissolves, yet when you set the device down, a hollow feeling remains. So you might eat something sweet, savory, crunchy, not from hunger but from a need to fill a quiet space. Guilt follows. That something you sought wasn't food or even dopamine. It was an escape hatch from a storm of feeling you've never named. Jung taught that we all possess a shadow, a hidden self we bury. And often, mindless pleasure is the tool we use to dig that grave. When you consume without true need, scroll without genuine interest, or seek connection without real love, you are not choosing joy. You are choosing sedation. Here is the difficult realization. A great deal of what we call pleasure is not fulfillment. It is relief from the discomfort of being with ourselves. The cost is catastrophic. Each dose of synthetic comfort deepens the craving for the authentic, leaving us feeling hollow and defective. We are not broken. We are asleep, unaware that we've been trained to confuse escapism with enjoyment, to mistake the symptom for the cure. Let's go deeper. You're a child, you're hurt, and you cry. No one comes, or perhaps they do, but with a distraction. Here, have this, don't be sad. The lesson is learned early. Expressing pain yields nothing, but performing contentment brings reward. So you practice this for decades, until in adulthood, your unspoken pain is buried under a cacophony of purchased joys. Noises louder than your loneliness, brighter than your quiet fears, drowning out the inner child who simply needed to be heard. But here is the mechanism few grasp. Pleasure has memory. Each time you use a distraction to mute an ache, you train your nervous system to dread stillness. This is why solitude becomes unbearable, why background noise feels mandatory, why silence seems like a void. Jung saw this clearly. Pleasure, misapplied, becomes an adversary to the soul, not because enjoyment is wrong, but because the avoidance it enables is. Most pleasure isn't about feeling good. It's about feeling less. Now, if this is stirring a recognition in you, if you've ever felt that odd emptiness after an indulgence meant to bring joy, then you're already seeing the pattern. Subscribe to Winds of Thought. Comment below. What is one harmless habit you suspect is a tool of avoidance? This admission isn't weakness, it's the first step toward genuine strength. Let's examine the trap. It's like a traveler in a desert, sprinting after shimmering illusions of water. Each one vanishes upon arrival, yet they run to the next, believing this one will be real. This is the nature of purposeless pleasure. The cruel irony? True, soul-nourishing pleasure is often quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't numb. It enlarges you. It's found in a moment of vulnerable conversation, in completing a difficult task, in the quiet pride of no longer being controlled by a craving. We often bypass this kind because it asks for effort. Yet it is the only kind that truly satisfies. Jung wrote that people will resort to any absurdity to avoid confronting their own inner reality. And what is our endless chase for easy feeling, if not the most beautifully packaged absurdity of all? Let's rewind the tape. Childhood. You fall, you skin your knee, it hurts, you cry. An adult says, "Shh, don't cry, here's a treat," or "Look, something shiny." This moment etches itself into your neurology. Pain equals problem, feeling equals failure, pleasure equals solution. You grow, and without realizing it, you become an expert in deflection. Pleasure becomes your spokesperson. It talks when you're too afraid to whisper, "I'm hurting." It acts out when you're too weary to admit, "I'm empty." It grins when all you wish to do is weep. But with each substitution of raw emotion for managed stimulation, you drift further from your authentic self. Jung cautioned that when we neglect our inner world, the outer world must grow louder to compensate. Our pleasures become that noise, the scroll, the ping, the stream, screaming so we don't have to listen. Listen to what? To the underlying ache, the need for purpose, the longing to be truly seen. The original wound of invisibility. Pleasure itself is not the enemy. It is sacred when engaged with conscious choice. It becomes toxic when it becomes a substitute for presence. Have you felt that post-indulgence guilt? After the third episode, the unnecessary purchase, the text you shouldn't have sent, the snack you didn't need. That guilt isn't about morality. It's an inner signal that you weren't nourished. You were anesthetized. This is the heart of shadow work. It's not about embracing darkness. It's about spotting the moments you trade your truth for temporary relief and choosing differently. Consider a person who cycles through intense, fleeting relationships. They call themselves a romantic. But each cycle is identical: obsession, intensity, collapse. The truth? They weren't in love with love. They were addicted to the distraction. Alone, the silence was too potent. They never learned to tend their own wounds, so pleasure became a temporary bandage until it fell off. This story is everywhere. It's the hidden narrative of confusing longing for love, scrolling for joy, numbness for healing. The peril isn't in the existence of these pleasures. The peril is in never asking, why do I need this so much? Let's dismantle a central myth. Pleasure is not healing. It is not peace. It is not power. It is an instrument. And any instrument, wielded without awareness, becomes a weapon. Now reverse the lens. Recall a time you practiced restraint. You didn't send that text. You resisted that click. You delayed that craving. Later, you felt a quiet pride, a solid peace. Why? Because discipline is more than control. It is a covenant with yourself. And that covenant builds trust. Self-trust is the ultimate reward. When you trust yourself, pleasure loses its power to control you. You can then select it deliberately, wholly, freely. That is when pleasure transforms into celebration, not compulsion. Imagine entering a quiet space, no devices, no external noise, just you. And instead of anxiety, you feel a sense of arrival. Not because you possess everything, but because you are sufficiently whole. This is Jung's individuation. Becoming integrated not through deprivation or relentless hustle, but through bringing all parts of yourself home. The capacity to feel pleasure without using it as a medicine. The ability to cherish silence without fearing it. The power to be your own company and appreciate who you find. You cannot reach this by chasing endless highs. You reach it by turning down the volume on your distractions and listening to what they were meant to cover. What does this look like daily? It looks like noticing the impulse to grab your phone and asking, what feeling am I fleeing from? It looks like allowing a wave of loneliness to wash over you without immediately reaching for sugar, or a screen, or a body. It looks like intentionally choosing the slower, richer pleasure, the one that requires effort, demands your full attention, and offers a reward that matures over time. The pleasure you don't need is the only one that truly fulfills. Because here is the hidden rule: authentic pleasure is rarely instant. It is cultivated. The deepest laughter comes with trusted companionship. The most satisfying meal follows meaningful labor. The richest connection emerges from being truly witnessed, not just digitally acknowledged. If this perspective is unsettling something within you, good. That is the sensation of awakening. It's not loud or dramatic. It is a quiet, decisive shift. The choice is stark. Will I continue to dull my ache with quick fixes, or will I meet myself, fully, courageously, without anesthetic? Jung proposed that our suffering stems not from our past wounds, but from our ongoing refusal to face what those wounds created within us. Unconscious pleasure ensures we never make that confrontation. But now you see it. So we arrive at the core. You've felt the resonance. You've watched the glittering facade of false pleasure crack. Now comes the part that demands courage. To reclaim your life, you must acknowledge a terrifying fact. You have been complicit in your own betrayal. Not in grand ways, but in small daily abdications. Each reach for the quick fix, each just a few more minutes, each avoidance of the quiet because it spoke too clearly. Each time you convinced yourself, this feels good, when it only helped you forget. Hold this carefully. This is not about shame. It is about sight. You were not weak for using what you believed was a lifeline. You were not flawed for craving something that softened the edges. You were surviving. And now you are preparing to live. Once you see the cycle, that so much pleasure was merely sedation, not joy, you can no longer unsee it. The party loses its sparkle. The scroll fails to itch the scratch. The encounter doesn't fill the hollow. The sugar doesn't silence the scream. Because the core pain was never boredom. It was disconnection from your own essence. Let's visualize this. Imagine your psyche as a house. Inside resides your younger, wounded self, your ignored truths, your unprocessed memories. Instead of walking through the front door to meet them, you've constructed a lavish, noisy fairground in the yard with music, treats, and games. You host a perpetual carnival outside so you never have to go in. This is the function of unexamined pleasure. It builds a dazzling distraction outside your inner home. Healing is the brave act of walking through the silent yard, opening your own door, sitting with that inner child and saying, "I am here now. It is safe to speak." This is the work. Jung didn't advocate for an addiction to stillness. He championed becoming unafraid of it. To understand that silence is not an emptiness, but a space containing everything we've been avoiding. Now, the final illusion to shatter. You've been sold the idea that pleasure is the objective, that happiness is a constant positive feeling, that indulgence equals freedom. But real freedom isn't about doing whatever you desire. It's about no longer being compelled by those desires. Genuine pleasure is not the treat, the notification, or the ego boost. Genuine pleasure is the profound moment you realize you are no longer dependent on distraction from your own being. You can sit in stillness and feel a smile arise. Not because the silence is empty, but because it is complete. Complete with presence, with truth, with a quiet power. You become someone who doesn't chase the high because you carry an inner equilibrium. People will notice. You'll speak with more pauses. Your laughter will be less frequent, but more resonant. They may ask, "Why are you so quiet online now? Why don't you go out as much?" You'll smile. They won't yet understand that you're not missing out. You have simply arrived. And that is what unsettles many, because a person who no longer needs pleasure to feel okay becomes potent, uncontrollable, undistractable, unmanipulable. The lures of marketing lose their power. Addictions loosen their grip. Because you have reclaimed your presence, and presence is the ultimate quiet rebellion. Jung said the great privilege is to become who you truly are, and who you are is not a collection of cravings. You are not merely a consumer of sensations. You are a maker of meaning. And meaning is not always pleasurable. Often it is demanding, taxing, and inconvenient. But it is real. And it will nourish you in ways transient pleasure never can. So the next time an urge arises, create a pause. Don't fight it. Don't judge it. Simply inquire, what is the true need beneath this want? That single question can change everything. It breaks the automated cycle. It returns authorship of your life to you. It reminds you, you are not your hunger. You are the conscious being who chooses how to feed it. Let me leave you with this. You will perceive pleasure differently now, not as something forbidden, but as something seen through clear eyes. You will still savor life's sweetness, still connect, still enjoy. But you will do so with awareness. And that awareness will guard you from trading your enduring peace for passing comfort. It will render your joy more sacred, your relationships more authentic, your habits more intentional, and your silence more valuable. Because the pleasure you are free to choose, not compelled to need, is the only kind worth having. Carl Jung warned that what we call pleasure is often not joy, but escape. And the more we rely on it, the further we drift from inner peace. If you've ever felt strangely hollow after something that was supposed to feel good, stay with me. What you're about to understand may change how you see pleasure forever. If this journey into depth resonated with you, please like this video. It helps Wines of Thought grow. Thank you for listening.